I've been driving trucks for 15 years. 15 long years. You see a lot during those late night hauls. The 3 a.m. gas stations, lot lizards, the addicts drifting like ghosts across empty parking lots. But what happened at that 7-Eleven last month? That still keeps me awake on nights when I'm dead tired. I was on hour 20 of what should have been a 14-hour haul, running on caffeine pills, blasting metal, slapping my face, anything to stay conscious. My bladder was screaming by the time I spotted this lonely little 7-Eleven, glowing on the horizon like a sad beacon. Only one car in the lot, a rusted-out Civic, plastered with stickers about government mind control. Perfect, just the kind of energy you want at 3:17 a.m. The bell jingled when I stepped inside. Behind the counter stood this rail-thin guy, mid-20s maybe, staring at his phone. Didn't even look up. Just had this weird smirk, the kind that doesn't touch the eyes. "Bathroom?" I asked. He pointed without looking away from his screen. His fingers, something was off. Too long, bending at strange angles. The nails chewed raw, with dried blood packed around the cuticles. I told myself I was hallucinating from exhaustion and headed to the back. The floor stuck to my boots with every step, making that wet, peeling sound. The air smelled like burnt coffee, bleach, and something rotten hiding underneath. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. One flickered like a dying strobe. 2 stalls, 1 filthy urinal. I ducked into the first stall. That's when I heard it. Slow breathing in the next stall. Not normal breathing. A wet, rasping wheeze, like someone drowning from the inside out. "Sorry, man," I muttered, embarrassed. But the breathing didn't change, didn't respond. Then it stopped. The silence that followed felt worse than the breathing. I finished fast, stepped out, and went to wash up. The faucet dripped rhythmically. Ping, 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 each drop louder than the last. As I leaned into the sink, the mirror gave me a clear view of the stalls behind. And that's when I saw it. Movement. A hand. Long, gray-white fingers curling around the edge of the stall door. The stall where the breathing had been. I froze. Slowly, a shape emerged in the reflection. The cashier. Butt twisted, shoulders hunched at a painful angle, eyes wide, too wide. That smirk stretched into something feral. Drool glistened on his chin, like he'd just spotted prey. I spun for the door. It didn't move. The handle turned, but something held it shut. The lights flickered once, twice, then died. Darkness wrapped around me, thick and suffocating. The rotten smell hit like a wall. Then, right against my ear, "Did I scare you?" A cold finger brushed the back of my neck. "No one stops here anymore," he whispered. I had to do something fun. A phone screen lit up inches from my face, his pupils blown out so big they looked like black holes. I slammed my elbow back, hitting something solid. He grunted, but didn't let go. His fingers tightened on my shoulders with impossible strength. "Don't leave," he whined, voice trembling like a lonely child. "I'm so lonely." Panic finally took over. I grabbed the metal trash can and smashed it into him. It cracked against his head with a sickening thud. He staggered. I yanked the door. Still stuck. Behind me came a wet, skittering sound. When I looked back, he was crawling toward me on all fours. Fast. too fast. His head hung at a crooked, unnatural angle. But that smile never changed. Lonely, I'm so lonely, he sang in a warped, childish tune. I threw my whole weight into the door once, twice, until it finally burst open. I bolted through the store like prey running from a predator. His giggles echoed behind me, turning into screams of rage. I didn't look back until I reached my truck. He stood in the doorway, perfectly still, except for his head, tilted sideways at an angle that would have snapped a human neck. The flickering light cast his shadow long across the parking lot. He raised his hand and waved. Too many fingers fanned out like a spider. "Ooh, come again," he yelled cheerfully. I peeled out of the lot so fast, I nearly lost control. A week later, I saw his face again on the news. Customers had been complaining about a horrible stench in that 7-Eleven bathroom. Police finally checked it out. They found dead animals stuffed in the vents and inside storage spaces. They arrested the employee. Same guy. When the cops asked him why, he just smiled and said, "I didn't like being alone." I've worked night shifts most of my life, but the one I took at that old 7-Eleven on the edge of Highway 42 is the only one that still keeps me up at night. Because what happened in those few hours, it was around 1 a.m., the hour where silence feels heavier, almost like it's listening back. The store was empty. Fluorescent lights hummed. The coolers clicked on and off. Just routine night shift noise. Then the air changed. A cold draft slid across the back of my neck. Sharp, like walking into a freezer. The AC was never that strong, never that sudden. I brushed it off. Night shifts make your mind wander. But the smell came next. Rotten, damp, like something spoiled had been left out too long. I checked every aisle, every bin. Nothing. That's when I first noticed the sound. A faint scraping. Not loud, just enough to feel wrong, like something heavy dragging across tile. It came from the storage room. I opened the door. The room was dark. I flipped the switch, and the light buzzed to life. Boxes, freezer, cleaning supplies, nothing out of place. But the scraping didn't stop. It moved across the ceiling. I looked up. The ceiling vent gently rattled, shifting, like something was pressing against it from the inside. I stepped back. That's when every cooler light in the store flickered at once. One by one, down the aisle, click, click, like they were reacting to something moving past them. Then the bell at the front door chimed. No one was there. The doors hadn't opened, just the bell, ringing, as if someone had walked inside. I felt it behind me. Not a presence, more like pressure. The air pushing in around me, squeezing my chest tight. My hands started shaking as the cold grew sharper, forming a thin fog in the air. And then, the radios in the back turned on by themselves. Static, loud, broken static, like a storm trapped inside a speaker. Through the noise, a voice bled in, not words, just a long, wet exhale, right into the microphone. Every instinct told me to run, but I stood frozen as the ceiling vent above the counter gave one final violent jerk and then slammed shut. The cold vanished. The static died. Everything went silent. I closed the store early that night. Didn't even count the register. I walked straight out into the night air, locked the door behind me, and never picked up another shift there again. Whatever was in that store, it wasn't human. And it wasn't trying to scare me. It was trying to get out. I'd been on the road for almost a full day, 23 hours behind the wheel, driving back after my mother's funeral. I didn't have the money for a motel, and honestly, I didn't have the energy to care. My eyes felt like sandpaper, and the highway had turned into one long, blurry ribbon, stretching forever. So when I saw the neon glow of a 7-Eleven sign flickering through the darkness, it felt like some kind of miracle. A place to stretch, breathe, maybe get some coffee to push through another couple of hours. The parking lot was nearly empty, just a rust-eaten Honda tucked in the corner. The moment I shut my engine off, a strange shiver crawled right up my back. That heavy, instinctual feeling that someone is watching you. I shook it off and headed inside. The moment the door swung open, the store's fluorescent lights blasted me like a swarm of angry insects. Everything had this sickly, unreal color to it, like the whole place was dipped in greenish bleach. The air smelled like burnt coffee and disinfectant. Behind the counter, a skinny teenage cashier was completely absorbed in his phone, thumb scrolling non-stop. I grabbed a cup and went to pour some coffee. It smelled terrible, but I needed anything with caffeine. As I lifted the pot, I suddenly felt warmth on the back of my neck, a breath that wasn't mine. I froze. When I turned, a figure in a dark hoodie stood inches from me. I couldn't see his face clearly, just pale skin and eyes that were far too wide, stretched almost, like he couldn't blink if he tried. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered. His voice sounded strained, like every word hurt to say. My stomach flipped. "What are you talking about?" I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, his eyes flicked toward the front door, quick, sharp, like he was tracking movement I couldn't see. "They're coming," he muttered. "Leave before it's too late." I glanced toward the cashier, expecting some reaction. But the kid just kept scrolling, totally oblivious. When I looked back, the hooded guy was gone. No footsteps, no door chime, not even the sound of fabric moving. Just a sudden draft of cold air where he had been standing. My pulse was hammering. I tried to push it aside, grabbed a candy bar, and headed toward the counter. Just pay and get out. That was all I wanted. But I only made it a few steps before the door chimed again. 2 men walked in like they owned the place. One was built like a wall, thick arms, denim jacket stretched across massive shoulders. The other was tall and wiry with a shaved head. Neither bothered to pretend they were shopping. A big one slapped the cashier across the face so hard, the kid's phone flew out of his hand and clattered on the counter. "Empty the register," he growled. I ducked behind a display of chip bags, trying to stay hidden. Through the gaps, I saw the skinny one pull out a gun, waving it like it was nothing. The cashier's breathing turned ragged. Mine wasn't much better. I started to crawl toward the far end of the aisle, slow and quiet. If I could make it just a few more feet, I'd have a clear path to the door. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure they'd hear it. I was almost free. but sweat makes you clumsy. My fingers slipped. The candy bar I was holding tumbled to the floor. The small thud sounded like a gunshot. Everything went silent. Then the buzz cut one spoke. "Check that aisle. Someone's here." Instinct took over. I bolted. A deafening bang erupted behind me. Glass exploded beside my head as the first bullet tore through a drink cooler. I sprinted harder, lungs boning. The second shot hit me. It felt like someone slammed a baseball bat into my arm. Then the fire spread, white hot, agonizing, tearing through my nerves. I crashed the doors and stumbled into the parking lot. My hands fumbled in my pockets, searching, shaking, until my car keys slipped out and skidded under the vehicle. I dropped to my knees, blood dripping from my arm, feeling blindly under the chassis. The door behind me chimed again. I looked back. The wiry man stood in the doorway, gun raised, staring straight at me. My fingers finally closed around the keys. I scrambled into the driver's seat, smeared blood across the door, and twisted the key so hard I thought it might snap. The engine roared to life, just as another shot shattered my back window. I peeled out of the lot, speeding into the highway with tears and adrenaline blurring everything. 10 miles down the road, the pain finally swallowed me. I pulled over and let myself collapse. I spent the next 3 days in a hospital bed. The police visited on the second day. I told them everything. The robbery, the gunshots, the warnings. Then I asked, "Did you catch the guy in the hoodie? The one who told me to leave?" The officer frowned. "What hoodie guy?" No one else was there. They checked the security footage, frame by frame, and they were right. The cameras showed the cashier, the two robbers, and me. No one else. No hoodie, no warning, no breath on my neck. Just me talking to empty air. Even now, I can still feel that breath sometimes, warm, close, right behind my ear. I've played that moment over in my mind 1,000 times, trying to make sense of it. Who was he? Some hallucination brought on by exhaustion? Or something trying to save my life before I walked into a nightmare? I still don't know. But one thing is certain. Someone or something didn't want me in that store at 12:17 a.m.